The baby screamed so loudly that people across the street turned to look. Hannah Park froze mid-step, grocery bag slipping from her fingers as the cry sliced through the night air. It wasn't the normal fussing cry she'd heard on buses or in crowded markets. This was raw. Desperate. The kind of cry that came from fear, hunger, and being completely alone. She turned. The alley beside the convenience store was dark, narrow, and smelled of wet cardboard and old oil. The streetlight flickered, struggling to stay alive. And there, sitting on the cold concrete near a stack of crates, was a baby. A tiny boy. Maybe 1 year old. His cheeks were flushed, eyes swollen from crying, small fists shaking as he screamed into the empty alley. Hannah's heart slammed against her ribs. "Oh my God," she whispered, already moving before fear could stop her. She glanced around. No stroller. No bag. No adult. Just the baby, wrapped in an oversized hoodie that clearly didn't belong to him. Hey, it's okay," Hannah said softly, crouching a few feet away. "Where's your mom?" The baby only cried harder. People passed by the alley entrance, glancing in but not stopping. Soul nights were busy. Everyone was tired. Everyone had somewhere else to be. Hannah swallowed. She worked 12-hour shifts at a small food stall near the subway station. Her feet hurt, her back ached, and she had exactly enough money to last her until the end of the week. She didn't have time for trouble. She didn't have room for responsibility. But she also couldn't walk away. She set her grocery bag down and slowly reached out her hand. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The baby hiccuped between sobs, big dark eyes locking onto her face. His cries softened into broken whimpers. That was when she noticed it. A thin gold bracelet around his wrist. Too expensive for a child abandoned in an alley. It caught the weak streetlight, engraved with tiny characters she couldn't fully read. Her stomach tightened. "This isn't right," she murmured. The baby's cries turned hoarse. He reached out with trembling hands, fingers clutching at the air. Hannah hesitated for only a second. Then she picked him up. The baby clung to her instantly, face pressing into her jacket as if afraid she might disappear too. His body was warm, but he felt too light. Too small. "You're hungry, aren't you?" she whispered. She glanced back at the convenience store. The automatic doors slid open and shut as customers came and went. An idea formed quickly. Inside, she bought a small bottle of warm milk and a soft bun, spending money she couldn't afford to waste. When she returned, she sat on the low step near the alley and carefully fed him. The baby drank greedily, little hands gripping the bottle like it was the only thing keeping him alive. Hannah watched him, heart aching. "There you go, slow down," she said gently. When he finished, his cries faded into quiet sniffles. His eyelids drooped. Within minutes, he fell asleep against her chest, breathing evenly for the first time. Hannah let out a shaky breath. That was when she heard the engines. Low. Powerful. More than one. She looked up. Black vehicles rolled slowly onto the street, their presence heavy and wrong. Doors opened in perfect sync. Men stepped out, tall, dressed in dark suits, faces unreadable, eyes sharp. Her blood ran cold. One of them scanned the street, then the alley. Their eyes locked. The man stiffened. He spoke urgently into his earpiece, gaze snapping to the baby in Hannah's arms. Within seconds, the alley filled with footsteps. Hannah stood up instinctively, clutching the child tighter. I just found him," she stammered as 3 men surrounded her. He was crying, he was alone. "Where did you get him?" one of them demanded. His voice was calm. Too calm. "I didn't take him," she said quickly. "He was right there. I just fed him, he was starving." The men exchanged looks. Another man stepped forward, older, with silver at his temples and eyes that had seen too much violence to care anymore. He studied Hannah closely. Do you know who this child is? He asked. Hannah shook her head. No. I swear. I was just trying to help. Silence stretched. Then the baby stirred. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first. Then he saw the men. His body stiffened. And then he did something that made every man in the alley go rigid. He buried his face deeper into Hannah's chest and whimpered, clinging to her like she was his only shield. The older man sucked in a sharp breath. Call the chairman, he said quietly. Hannah's heart pounded. Chairman. No one answered her. Minutes later, another car arrived. This one was different. Longer. Darker. The air itself seemed to shift when the door opened. A man stepped out. He wasn't old. Mid-30s, maybe. Tall. Broad shoulders beneath a tailored coat. His presence silenced the street without a word. His eyes went straight to the baby. Then to Hannah. He walked toward her slowly, every step controlled. Give him to me, he said. His voice was deep, emotionless. Hannah's arms tightened instinctively. I didn't hurt him. I fed him. He was crying. I said, the man repeated, closer now, give him to me. The baby whimpered again. Hannah looked down at him, then back at the stranger. Something about the man's gaze terrified her, but something else scared her even more. The complete lack of warmth. He doesn't want to go, she blurted out before she could stop herself. The alley went deadly quiet. Every man present stared at her in disbelief. The stranger's eyes narrowed slightly. You don't understand who I am. No, Hannah said, voice shaking but steady. But I understand babies. And he's scared. A long pause. Then, unexpectedly, the man exhaled. Why is he calm with you? He asked, not angrily, almost confused. I fed him, Hannah replied softly. I held him. Silence again. Finally, the man extended his hands. I'm his father. Hannah's breath caught. Before she could respond, the baby lifted his head, looked at the man, and started crying again. The sound echoed through the alley. Something dark flickered across the man's face. The older aide leaned in and whispered, Sir, this woman kept him alive tonight. The man looked back at Hannah, studying her like a problem he hadn't expected. You, he said slowly, are coming with us. Fear shot through her spine. I can't. You can, he cut in. And you will. He reached for the baby again. This time, the baby hesitated. Then, slowly, he loosened his grip on Hannah's jacket. As the man took his son into his arms, the baby reached back out toward Hannah, fingers stretching for her as he cried. Hannah felt tears sting her eyes. She didn't know why. She didn't know who this man really was. She didn't know that the baby she had fed in a dark alley was the most feared Korean Mafia boss in the country. And she had no idea her life had just crossed a line she could never return from. Hannah didn't remember agreeing to get into the car. One moment she was standing in the alley, heart pounding, watching the baby reach for her as he was carried away. The next, she was being guided, escorted, into the back seat of a black sedan that smelled like leather and something metallic underneath. The door closed with a soft but final thud. She swallowed hard, fingers twisting together in her lap. Across from her, the man sat in silence, the baby resting against his chest. The child's cries had softened into quiet sniffles, his small body tense, eyes darting nervously between the unfamiliar faces. Hannah watched him carefully. You didn't tell me his name, she said quietly. The man didn't look at her. Min-jae. The name felt heavy. Important. He's hungry, Hannah added. And tired. I know, the man replied flatly. She glanced at him. Up close, his face was sharp, controlled, almost carved from stone. But when Min-jae shifted and whimpered, his jaw tightened, as if something inside him was being pulled in two directions. The car began to move. Where are we going? Hannah asked. To my home. Her chest tightened. I just helped him. I don't want any trouble. That finally made him look at her. His eyes were dark, unreadable. If I wanted to hurt you, you wouldn't be sitting here asking questions. That wasn't comforting. They drove in silence for a long time. The city lights faded, replaced by wide roads and guarded entrances. Tall iron gates opened without hesitation as the car approached. Hannah stared out the window. This wasn't just a rich man's house. This was a fortress. The car pulled into a massive courtyard. Armed men stood at attention. Cameras followed every movement. As the door opened, Hannah hesitated. Please, she said suddenly. I have work tomorrow. I just. Follow me, the man said, stepping out with Minjae in his arms. She did. Inside, the house was cold in a way money couldn't fix. Marble floors, high ceilings, no warmth. No toys. No laughter. A woman rushed forward, tears streaming down her face the moment she saw the baby. Minjae. Oh, thank God. She reached for him, but the man shook his head once. Later, he said. The woman froze, nodding quickly. Hannah watched the exchange, unease growing. The man turned to her. Sit. She sat. Minutes passed. Then more men entered the room. Some stared at her openly. Others avoided her gaze. Finally, the older man from the alley stepped forward. Chairman Kong, he said. We've confirmed everything. The boy wandered off during the shift change. She had no involvement. Chairman Kong. The title landed hard. Hannah's throat went dry. The man nodded once. Then he looked at her again. You fed him, he said. Yes. You held him. Yes. Minjae stirred at the sound of her voice, his eyes opening slightly. When he saw Hannah, his hand reached out instinctively. Chairman Kong noticed. Something dark and complicated passed over his face. Why? He asked her. Because he was crying, Hannah replied simply. The room fell silent. No one laughed. No one scoffed. After a moment, Chairman Kong handed Minjae to the woman beside him. The baby protested immediately, crying again, reaching toward Hannah with trembling fingers. Hannah stood without thinking. She stepped forward and gently touched Minjae's hand. It's okay, she whispered. You're home. The baby calmed almost instantly. Chairman Kang's eyes narrowed. You don't fear me, he said. She hesitated. I do. But I was more afraid of leaving him alone. Another long pause. You will stay, he said. Her head snapped up. What? Tonight, he clarified. Until he sleeps. I can't. You can, he said again, voice firm. You'll be compensated. She almost laughed. This isn't about money. He studied her closely. Everyone has a price. Not for a child, she shot back. The words echoed in the vast room. For the first time, something cracked. Chairman Kong looked away. Minjae was settled into a massive bed that looked like it had never been used. The lights were dimmed. The room was silent except for the baby's soft breathing. Hannah sat beside him, humming quietly, the same tune her mother used to sing when she was little. Minutes passed. Then the door opened. Chairman Kong stood there, watching. He doesn't sleep, he said quietly. Not like this. Hannah didn't look at him. He's been scared for a long time. He has everything, Kong replied. She finally turned. Everything except someone who holds him when he cries. The words landed harder than she intended. Silence stretched. He cries every night, Kong admitted after a moment. The staff says he calls for his mother. Hannah softened. How long has she been gone? Kang's jaw tightened. 8 months. And you? She asked gently. Where are you when he cries? He didn't answer. Min-jae stirred, eyes fluttering open. He saw Hannah and relaxed immediately. Hannah smiled softly. See? He just needs to know someone's there. Kong watched, something unreadable flickering behind his eyes. When Min-jae finally fell asleep, truly asleep, Hannah stood slowly. I should go now, she said. Kong didn't move. No. She stiffened. I'm not your prisoner. No, he agreed. You're not. Then he added, I want you to stay. As his caregiver. Her heart skipped. What? You saw him. You calmed him. He trusts you. I just met him. And yet, Kong said quietly, he reaches for you. Hannah shook her head. I don't belong here. You belong where he feels safe, Kong replied. I'll pay you more than you make in a year. That's not. You'll live here. Work 4 days a week. No nights. No danger. She stared at him. You don't even know me. I know enough, he said. You fed my son when no one else did. The weight of the moment pressed down on her. And if I say no? She asked. Kong met her gaze. Then you walk away tonight. And he cries again tomorrow. Min-jae shifted in his sleep, tiny fingers curling. Hannah's chest tightened painfully. She looked at the child. Then at the man. I'll think about it, she said. Kong nodded once. You'll stay tonight. It wasn't a request. Hannah sat back down beside the bed, heart racing. She didn't know it yet, but that single night would turn into weeks. Weeks would turn into months. And the baby she fed out of kindness would grow into the reason the most dangerous man in Korea would finally begin to change. Morning came quietly, filtered through tall glass windows and thick curtains that softened the light. Hannah woke up stiff, still sitting in the chair beside Min-jae's bed. Her neck ached, her legs numb. For a split second, she forgot where she was. Then she saw the room. The size of it alone made her chest tighten. This wasn't a child's bedroom. It was too clean. Too controlled. The kind of room designed by adults who didn't know how children actually lived. Min-jae stirred, rubbing his eyes. Hannah leaned forward immediately. Good morning, she whispered. His face brightened when he saw her. He pushed himself up and crawled clumsily toward her, small hands gripping her sleeve. She smiled despite herself. You slept well. The door opened. Hannah stiffened as Chairman Kong stepped in, already dressed, already composed. He looked like a man who hadn't slept at all. Min-jae glanced at him, then back at Hannah, uncertain. Kong noticed. You stayed, he said. Yes, Hannah replied cautiously. He needed someone. Kong nodded once. You'll eat breakfast. I should go home, she said. I have work. You don't anymore. Her head snapped up. Excuse me? I had my assistant call the diner, Kong said calmly. They won't need you back. Her pulse spiked. You can't just. I can, he interrupted. And I did. Anger flared. That was my job. It barely paid you, he replied flatly. That doesn't mean you get to decide my life. Silence followed. The kind that pressed down on the chest. Min-jae whimpered softly, sensing the tension. Hannah took a breath and softened her tone. Please. I just need time. Kong looked at his son, then back at her. Time is something I don't have. Breakfast was served in a long dining room with more chairs than people. Min-jae sat beside Hannah, refusing to let go of her sleeve. A woman entered quietly, placing dishes down. She gave Hannah a curious look. This is Mrs. Lim, Kong said. She's been with us for years. Mrs. Lim bowed slightly. Thank you for keeping him safe. Hannah nodded awkwardly. Anyone would have done the same. Mrs. Lim's expression said otherwise. After breakfast, Kong stood. Walk with me. Hannah hesitated, then followed, Min-jae holding her hand. They moved through long hallways until they reached a smaller sitting room. Kong closed the door. I don't trust easily, he said. Especially not strangers. I'm not asking you to trust me, Hannah replied. Just let me go. He studied her. If you walk out, you disappear from his life. Her chest tightened. Children adjust. Not this one. Min-jae tugged her hand. No go, he whispered. Hannah knelt beside him. I'm not leaving yet. His grip loosened slightly. Kong watched closely. I'll give you 3 months, he said. Try it. If you want to leave after that, you go. And if I say no now? Kang's voice dropped. Then you leave today. Min-jae's eyes widened. Hannah felt trapped between fear and guilt. You're using him to control me. I'm giving you a choice, Kong said. I never had one. She stood slowly. 3 months. Kong nodded. Good. Days passed. Hannah learned the rhythms of the house. The silence. The rules. The unspoken warnings. Men in suits everywhere. Cameras. Locked doors. But with Min-jae, things were different. She read to him. Played with him. Sat with him when he cried. She insisted on toys. Color. Noise. At first, the staff watched her like she was a threat. Then they noticed Min-jae laughing. That changed everything. One evening, Kong passed by the playroom and froze at the sound. Laughter. He stepped inside quietly. Hannah sat on the floor, stacking blocks with Min-jae. The boy knocked them over, giggling wildly. Kong stood there, stunned. Min-jae noticed him. His laughter faded. Hannah glanced up and saw Kang's expression. She stood slowly. He likes building towers, she said. Knocking them down too. Kong nodded stiffly. Min-jae hesitated, then picked up a block and held it out. Kong didn't move. Hannah waited, holding her breath. Slowly, Kong knelt down. He took the block. Min-jae smiled. Something broke. From that day on, Kong lingered longer. Asked questions. Watched. One night, Hannah found him standing outside Min-jae's door. He wakes up around midnight, she said gently. I know, Kong replied. Then come in. He hesitated. He needs you, she added. Kong entered the room awkwardly. Min-jae stirred, crying softly. Kong froze, unsure. Hannah stepped closer. Just sit. Kong sat. Min-jae opened his eyes and saw him. He cried louder. Kong flinched. Hannah touched his arm. Talk to him. Kong swallowed. I'm here, he said stiffly. Min-jae cried harder. Hannah sighed softly and reached out, guiding Kang's hand. Hold him. Kong hesitated, then did. Min-jae quieted almost immediately. Kang's breath caught. He's warm, he murmured. Hannah smiled faintly. He's your son. Weeks passed. Min-jae grew brighter. Happier. Less afraid. Hannah, however, felt the weight of the house pressing in. One afternoon, she overheard voices behind a door. They're testing us, a man said. The chairman's distracted. Hannah's stomach twisted. That night, she confronted Kong. Something's wrong. He stiffened. Stay out of my business. Your business can get him killed, she snapped. Silence. He's already in danger, Kong said quietly. He always has been. Then why keep pretending this life can coexist with him? His jaw clenched. You don't understand. Then explain, she challenged. He looked at her, really looked at her. Because if I stop, someone else takes my place. Someone worse. And if you don't stop, Hannah said, voice shaking, he grows up in fear. The words hung between them. That night, alarms blared. Shouting. Running. Hannah grabbed Minjae instinctively as gunshots echoed through the house. The walls shook. Kong burst into the room, eyes blazing. Get down. What's happening? Hannah cried. An attack, he said. Stay with him. Men rushed past them, weapons drawn. Hannah held Minjae tightly as explosions thundered outside. She realized then, this wasn't just a job. This was a war. And Minjae was right in the middle of it. The safe room smelled like metal and antiseptic. Hannah sat on the floor with Minjae pressed against her chest, his small body shaking as distant gunfire echoed through the walls. The lights flickered once, then steadied. Somewhere above them, men shouted orders in sharp, clipped voices. It's okay, Hannah whispered, even though her own hands trembled. I've got you. Minjae clutched her shirt, face buried against her shoulder. Loud, he whimpered. I know, she said, rocking him gently. Just listen to my voice. The door burst open. Chairman Kong stepped inside, blood splattered on the sleeve of his coat. His eyes went straight to Minjae. We're moving, he said. Hannah stood quickly. Is he hurt? No. Are you? Kong didn't answer. He moved closer, scanning the room, listening. The sounds outside began to fade, replaced by hurried footsteps retreating into the night. Who did this? Hannah asked. Kang's jaw tightened. Someone testing my weakness. Hannah felt anger surge. Your weakness is a child? His eyes flicked to her. My weakness is caring. They moved through hidden corridors Hannah didn't know existed. The house felt suddenly unfamiliar, like it had peeled back a layer to reveal its true nature. They drove for hours. When they finally stopped, it was dawn. The safe house was smaller, quieter, surrounded by trees instead of walls. No marble. No guards in sight, only a few men posted discreetly at a distance. Inside, Minjae finally fell asleep, exhausted. Hannah sat at the table, staring at her hands. Kong poured 2 cups of tea and set one in front of her. You should leave, he said quietly. She looked up. What? This life is not for you, he continued. You've seen too much. She laughed bitterly. You think I can forget gunshots and blood because you tell me to? This is my responsibility, he said. Not yours. And Minjae, she shot back. Is he just collateral damage? Kang's eyes hardened. Enough. No, Hannah said, standing. Enough pretending this can end any other way. He slammed his hand on the table. The cups rattled. You think I don't know, he snapped. Every decision I make keeps him alive. And every one puts him in danger, she replied, voice breaking. He cries in his sleep because he hears your enemies before he understands words. Silence swallowed the room. Kong looked away. I was raised in this world. Violence is all I know. Then learn something else, Hannah said softly. He laughed once, hollow. You make it sound easy. I make it sound necessary. Minjae whimpered from the other room. Both of them froze. Hannah moved first, scooping the child into her arms. He clung to her, eyes still half closed. Appa, he murmured. Kong stepped closer. I'm here. Minjae looked at him, confused, then reached for Hannah again. The rejection hit Kong like a physical blow. Hannah felt it too. He doesn't know you yet, she said gently. Not like he knows me. Kong nodded slowly. Because I was never there. That night, Kong didn't sleep. Hannah found him sitting outside as the sun rose, staring at nothing. You can't protect him forever with guns, she said quietly, sitting beside him. I know. Then stop. He turned to her. If I walk away, they'll hunt us. Not if you do it right, she replied. Not if you dismantle it piece by piece. You're asking me to destroy everything I built. I'm asking you to build something else. Days passed at the safe house. The attack had shaken everyone. Kang's men came and went, speaking in hushed tones. Hannah watched Kang from a distance, saw the exhaustion on his face, the conflict tearing him apart. One evening, he finally spoke. I've arranged something, he said. A transition. Her breath caught. What kind? I'll sell off territories. Legitimize what I can. It will take time. How much time? Years. She nodded. Then start. The weeks that followed were tense. Deals were made. Enemies pushed back. There were threats. Close calls. But Kang stayed true to his word. Min-jae slowly began to relax again. He laughed more. Slept better. One afternoon, Hannah found Kang sitting on the floor with Min-jae, drawing crooked shapes on paper. You're doing it wrong, Min-jae said seriously. Kang smiled, a real smile. Teach me. Hannah watched from the doorway, heart aching. She realized she was in love. The thought terrified her. That night, she tried to pull away. This can't go anywhere, she said quietly. Kang didn't argue. I know. But you still look at me like. Like hope, he finished. Because you are. Months passed. The danger slowly eased. Not gone, but manageable. One evening, Kang stood before her, eyes steady. I'm stepping down completely. Hannah stared at him. Are you sure? No, he admitted. But I'm doing it anyway. She felt tears slip down her cheeks. That's the bravest thing you've done. He reached for her hand. Hesitated. Then held it. Min-jae laughed nearby, chasing fireflies in the yard. Kang watched him, voice thick. I want him to grow up without fear. And he will, Hannah said. Because you chose him. For the first time, Kang believed it might be true. 18 months changed everything. Not all at once. Not cleanly. Change came in bruises and paperwork, in sleepless nights and quiet victories that no one celebrated out loud. Chairman Kang, no, just Kang now, lost territory before he lost power. He signed documents with hands that once held guns. He shook hands with men who smiled too widely and waited for him to fail. But he didn't. Hannah watched it happen from the sidelines at first, then from the center of it. She helped Min-jae with his words, with his fear, with his nightmares that came less often now. She learned how to cook meals in a kitchen that finally felt lived in. She learned how to argue with Kang without fear, and how to sit beside him when the weight of his past pressed too hard. Min-jae grew. He learned to say full sentences. Learned to run without looking over his shoulder. Learned that loud noises didn't always mean danger. One afternoon, he came home from preschool with a drawing clutched tightly in his hand. Appa, he said, running straight to Kang. For you. Kang crouched down, eyes soft. What is it? A family, Min-jae said proudly. Hannah leaned over to look. 3 stick figures. One tall. One small. One in the middle with long hair. Kang's throat tightened. Is this, us? Min-jae nodded. Teachers say family is people who stay. Hannah turned away quickly, blinking hard. That night, Kang stood on the balcony, city lights glowing below. Hannah joined him, handing him a cup of tea. You did it, she said quietly. He shook his head. I'm still doing it. That counts. He looked at her then. Really looked at her. I couldn't have done any of it without you. She smiled faintly. You could have. You just wouldn't have. He exhaled a soft laugh. Stay. I already am. The final severing came on a rainy morning. Kong signed the last transfer, stepping fully away from the shadow world that had defined him since he was a teenager. There were consequences. There always were. But none of them reached Minjae. That was all that mattered. Hannah opened a small food kitchen near the subway station months later. Nothing fancy. Warm meals. Long tables. A place where no one was turned away. Kong helped fund it quietly, never putting his name on anything. The first night it opened, Hannah watched people eat food she cooked and felt something inside her settle. Minjae ran between tables, laughing. Kong stood beside her, hands in his pockets. You saved him. Hannah shook her head. You did. He looked at his son. You fed him once and changed his entire future. She glanced at Kong. And yours. He nodded. I was a monster before. No, she said gently. You were a man who didn't know how to stop. Silence stretched between them, comfortable now. Later that night, after Minjae fell asleep curled between them on the couch, Kong spoke quietly. I never thanked you. Hannah looked at him. For what? For seeing him, Kong said. And for seeing me when I didn't deserve it. She reached for his hand. People deserve chances. Children deserve safety. And love? He asked. She smiled. That too. Kong leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. The kiss was soft. Careful. Earned. Minjae stirred, then sighed and settled again. Years later, people would whisper stories. About a man who vanished from the underworld. About a child who should have grown up broken but didn't. About a woman who gave food to a crying baby and unknowingly fed the heart of the most feared Korean Mafia boss. But inside that home, there were no titles. No fear. Just a family that chose to stay. And if this story moved you, even a little, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more powerful stories, and comment below. Would you have picked up a crying baby in a dark alley? Your answer might say more than you think.